Michael and Andrew Daniels were brothers bound by blood but divided by ambition. They were born and raised in a middle-class neighborhood on the south side of Chicago, where their father, Robert Daniels, ran a modest construction business. The Daniels family was well respected in their community, known for their hard work and integrity. Robert had built his company from the ground up, starting with nothing but a toolbox and a dream. Over the years, he had earned a reputation for quality workmanship and fairness, traits he had tried to instill in his sons. Michael, the elder of the two, was born in 1978, making him 46 years old. He was a tall, imposing figure with a calm demeanor that belied his sharp mind. From a young age, Michael was the responsible one, always taking care of his younger brother and helping their father around the workshop. He had a natural aptitude for numbers and a keen business sense, which led him to pursue a degree in business administration at the University of Chicago. After graduation, Michael joined the family business, eager to apply his skills and expand the company his father had worked so hard to build. He was methodical, disciplined, and cautious, preferring to stick to tried and true methods rather than taking unnecessary risks. Under his guidance, the Daniels Construction Company steadily grew, taking on larger projects and increasing its profitability. Andrew, on the other hand, was born in 1982, making him 42 years old. He was the polar opposite of his brother in many ways. Where Michael was serious and conservative, Andrew was outgoing and adventurous. He had a charismatic personality that drew people to him, and he was always full of new ideas and eager to push boundaries. Unlike Michael, Andrew had little interest in school, preferring instead to learn through experience. He briefly attended a local community college, but dropped out after a year, deciding that the traditional path wasn't for him. Instead, Andrew dove headfirst into the family business, working on construction sites and learning the trade from the ground up. He had a knack for spotting opportunities and wasn't afraid to take risks if he believed the reward was worth it. Despite their differences, the brothers shared a strong bond, forged through years of working side by side in their father's company. They respected each other's strengths and, for a time, managed to find a balance that allowed the business to thrive. Michael handled the finances and operations, ensuring that the company remained stable and profitable, while Andrew focused on sales and expansion, bringing in new clients and exploring new markets. Their complementary skills helped the Daniels Construction Company become one of the most successful family-owned businesses in Chicago. However, as the company grew, so did the cracks in their relationship. The first signs of discord appeared when Robert Daniels passed away suddenly from a heart attack in 2015. His death left a void in the company and in the lives of his sons. Michael, who had always been the more level-headed of the two, took over as the company's CEO. He believed that it was his duty to uphold his father's legacy and continue running the business as it had always been run, cautiously and conservatively. Andrew, however, saw his father's death as an opportunity to take the company in a new direction. He wanted to expand aggressively, take on more ambitious projects, and diversify into real estate development. To Andrew, this was the future of the company, a chance to honor their father's memory by making Daniels Construction a household name. The tension between the brothers began to escalate as their visions for the company increasingly diverged. Michael's cautious approach frustrated Andrew, who felt stifled by his brother's reluctance to take risks. Andrew, in turn, began to see Michael as a roadblock to his ambitions. He believed that his brother was too focused on preserving the status quo and was missing out on lucrative opportunities that could take the company to new heights. Michael, on the other hand, viewed Andrew's ideas as reckless and dangerous. He worried that his brother's aggressive tactics would put the company in jeopardy, risking everything their father had built. Their disagreements, which had once been minor and manageable, grew into full-blown arguments. Board meetings became battlegrounds where the brothers clashed over every decision, from which projects to bid on to how much money to reinvest in the business. The company's employees, who had once admired the brothers' partnership, began to feel the strain of working in an increasingly toxic environment. Rumors of a power struggle at the top spread quickly, and morale began to decline. The situation reached a boiling point when Michael discovered something that shook him to his core. Late one evening, while going through the company's financial records, he noticed a series of transactions that didn't add up. Large sums of money had been funneled into an account that Michael wasn't familiar with, and the transactions were authorized by none other than Andrew. At first, Michael tried to convince himself that there must be a logical explanation. Perhaps Andrew was setting up a new project or making a major purchase for the company. But as he dug deeper, his worst fears were confirmed. Andrew had been siphoning funds from the company into a private account. Feeling betrayed and furious, Michael confronted Andrew the next morning. The argument that followed was the worst they had ever had. Andrew didn't deny the accusations, but instead tried to justify his actions. He explained that he was saving up to buy out Michael's share of the company, believing that it was the only way to resolve their differences and take the company in the direction he believed it needed to go. Michael, however, saw this as a betrayal of everything their father had stood for. The trust that had once been the foundation of their relationship was shattered, and both brothers felt the sting of betrayal. After the confrontation, Michael found himself at a crossroads. He loved his brother, but he could no longer ignore the fact that they were tearing each other and the company apart. He considered his options carefully, weighing the future of the business against the ties of family. Michael's decision was clear. He could no longer work with Andrew. He would demand that Andrew step down from his position and leave the company, and if necessary, he would take legal action to make it happen. For Michael, it was a painful but necessary step to protect the company and honor his father's legacy. Andrew, meanwhile, was seething with anger and frustration. He felt misunderstood and unappreciated, convinced that Michael was trying to sabotage his dreams out of spite or fear. He refused to step down quietly and vowed to fight for his vision of the company. Andrew reached out to a lawyer, prepared to battle Michael in court if it came to that. He was determined to prove that he was the rightful leader of Daniels Construction and that his vision was the future of the company. The stage was set for a bitter and potentially destructive conflict. The once close brothers were now pitted against each other, with their father's legacy hanging in the balance. What had started as a difference of opinion had spiraled into a full-blown war, with both men willing to do whatever it took to come out on top. The seeds of discord that had been sown over the years had finally taken root, and the brothers were on a collision course that would end in tragedy. The heated confrontation between Michael and Andrew Daniels marked the beginning of a new, darker chapter in their relationship. The disagreement that had once simmered beneath the surface now erupted into open warfare, with both brothers entrenched in their positions. Their shared history, once a source of strength, became a battleground where every word and action was laced with bitterness. In the weeks following their explosive argument, the atmosphere at Daniels Construction was tense and strained. Employees who had once looked up to the brothers now felt caught in the crossfire. The company's board meetings became increasingly contentious, with Michael and Andrew engaging in fiery debates over every decision. Their arguments were no longer confined to the boardroom. They spilled over into the office corridors, where whispers and rumors circulated among the staff. Michael, now firmly in control as the CEO, sought to stabilize the company amidst the chaos. He focused on maintaining the existing contracts and managing the day-to-day operations, determined to preserve what remained of their father's legacy. Michael's approach was to be pragmatic, sticking to the tried-and-true methods that had made the company successful. He cut back on new projects and redirected resources to ensure that the company's core operations remained secure. His efforts were intended to reassure clients and employees alike that the company would weather the storm, but the atmosphere of uncertainty took a toll on morale. Andrew, meanwhile, was equally resolute in his pursuit of his vision. He felt betrayed by his brother's actions and was determined to push forward with his plans. Andrew's strategy was aggressive and confrontational. He publicly criticized Michael's conservative approach, arguing that the company's future depended on embracing innovation and taking bold risks. He began to cultivate relationships with potential investors and real estate developers, presenting himself as the forward-thinking leader the company needed. Andrew's rhetoric was fiery and unapologetic, and he started to build a network of supporters both within and outside the company. The brothers' public feud did not go unnoticed. Media outlets began to pick up on the story, portraying the Daniels family as a case study in how internal strife can cripple even the most successful businesses. Articles and news segments speculated on the potential outcomes of the conflict, adding fuel to the fire. The once sterling reputation of Daniels Construction was now overshadowed by the drama playing out at its helm. The conflict reached a dramatic turning point one evening when the brothers had a particularly heated argument in their office. Michael had called a meeting to discuss the company's finances, and Andrew, feeling sidelined, showed up unannounced. The confrontation began in the boardroom but quickly escalated into a shouting match. Michael accused Andrew of reckless behavior and financial mismanagement, while Andrew retaliated by accusing Michael of stifling progress and undermining his efforts. The argument was punctuated by angry outbursts and personal insults, reflecting the deep-seated animosity that had developed between them. The intensity of the argument was palpable, and the situation quickly grew out of control. Andrew, feeling cornered and desperate, threatened to take legal action against Michael if he didn't agree to a settlement that would allow him to implement his vision for the company. Michael, equally determined to prevent what he saw as a disastrous course of action, refused to budge. The meeting ended with both men storming out of the office, leaving the air thick with unresolved tension. The next few days were marked by an unsettling quiet. Michael and Andrew continued their respective campaigns, but the personal animosity between them made direct communication nearly impossible. Andrew's threats of legal action loomed over the company like a dark cloud, and Michael began to prepare for the possibility of a protracted legal battle. The legal teams for both sides were in constant contact, exchanging demands and counter-demands as they prepared for what promised to be a contentious and public dispute. In the midst of the escalating conflict, the Daniels family was further fractured. Their mother, Ellen Daniels, who had always been a stabilizing presence in their lives, found herself helplessly watching the destruction of the family she had worked so hard to build. Ellen had been a devoted wife and mother, known for her warmth and dedication to her family. Now, she was left to navigate the emotional turmoil caused by her son's bitter feud. She tried to mediate between them, but her efforts only seemed to add to the tension. The strain of the situation took a significant toll on her health, and she became increasingly withdrawn, unable to cope with the growing rift between her children. The impact of the feud extended beyond the family and the business. Friends and associates of the Daniels family were forced to choose sides, and the social circles that had once been filled with camaraderie and support became divided. The personal and professional networks that had once bolstered the company's success were now strained by the brothers' public dispute. The sense of unity that had characterized the Daniels family's rise was replaced by a corrosive sense of division and animosity. Despite the mounting pressure, Andrew remained steadfast in his resolve. He sought out alternative funding sources and explored new business opportunities. Convinced that he was on the right path, he was determined to prove his point and secure a future for the company that aligned with his vision. His actions were increasingly driven by a desire to vindicate himself and demonstrate his worth as a leader. Michael, on the other hand, focused on stabilizing the company and defending his position. He was determined to protect the company's assets and ensure that it remained solvent, even as the conflict with Andrew continued to escalate. Michael's actions were guided by a sense of duty and responsibility, driven by his commitment to preserving his father's legacy and maintaining the company's integrity. As the conflict between the brothers deepened, the sense of foreboding grew. The once promising future of Daniels Construction now seemed overshadowed by the brothers' destructive rivalry. The personal and professional stakes were higher than ever, and both men were entrenched in their positions, unwilling to compromise. The stage was set for a dramatic and tragic culmination of their feud. The brothers' relationship, which had once been marked by mutual respect and shared goals, was now characterized by animosity and discord. The future of the company and the family were hanging in the balance, with the potential for a devastating outcome looming ever closer. The escalating feud between Michael and Andrew Daniels reached a climax that no one could have anticipated. As the conflict between the two brothers intensified, the once thriving Daniels Construction Company began to unravel. Their personal vendetta had become a public spectacle, and the once respected family business was now marred by scandal and mistrust. It was a chilly November evening when the turning point of their story occurred. The office building that housed Daniels Construction had been eerily quiet, the usual hum of activity replaced by an oppressive silence. The staff had been sent home early, and the building's hallways were dimly lit by flickering fluorescent lights. Inside the company's boardroom, where the brothers had fought countless battles, a new and darker chapter was about to unfold. That night, Michael and Andrew met for what was intended to be a final negotiation. Michael had hoped to reach a settlement that could put an end to the strife and prevent further damage to the company. He had prepared a proposal that included a compromise on the company's future direction, hoping to address some of Andrew's concerns while retaining control over key decisions. Andrew, on the other hand, was resolute in his refusal to back down. He saw Michael's proposal as a ploy to maintain his grip on power and stifle his vision for the company. The meeting began with a tense atmosphere. The room was cold and stark, reflecting the emotional distance that had grown between the brothers. Michael and Andrew exchanged curt pleasantries before diving into the details of the proposal. As the discussion progressed, the arguments became increasingly heated. Michael accused Andrew of being reckless and short-sighted, while Andrew criticized Michael for being obstructive and outdated. The arguments were not just about business decisions but were laced with personal grievances and deep-seated resentment. The confrontation reached a fever pitch when Andrew, feeling cornered and betrayed, slammed his fist on the table. He accused Michael of undermining their father's legacy and obstructing progress. Michael, equally enraged, retaliated by accusing Andrew of betrayal and financial misconduct. The argument became a shouting match, with both men hurling insults and accusations at each other. The intensity of their emotions was palpable, and the situation quickly spiraled out of control. In the midst of their volatile argument, Andrew made a fateful decision. He pulled a knife from his briefcase, a knife he had been carrying for protection in light of the escalating threats, and brandished it menacingly. The sight of the knife shocked Michael, who had been prepared for a heated debate, but not for physical violence. The tension in the room reached a breaking point, and in a moment of desperation, Andrew lunged at Michael. The ensuing struggle was chaotic and brief. Michael, caught off guard, tried to defend himself, but was overpowered by Andrew's violent assault. In the struggle, both brothers were wounded, their fight a grim reflection of the deep-seated animosity that had come to define their relationship. The sounds of their confrontation echoed through the empty building, a tragic symphony of rage and despair. By the time the altercation ended, both brothers lay on the floor of the boardroom, gravely injured. The once proud office, a symbol of their father's legacy and their own achievements, had become the scene of a tragic confrontation. The brothers, whose lives had been intertwined by blood and shared ambition, now lay dying at each other's hands. The discovery of the bodies the next morning shocked everyone. The office's secretary, arriving early to prepare for the day, found the scene of violence and immediately contacted the authorities. The police arrived to find Michael and Andrew dead, victims of a brutal stabbing that had left both men with fatal wounds. The news of their deaths spread quickly, sending shockwaves through the community and the business world. As the investigation unfolded, the police pieced together the events of the previous night. Forensic evidence and security footage from the building's surveillance cameras provided crucial insights into what had transpired. The footage revealed the intensity of the brothers' argument and the tragic moment when Andrew had used the knife against Michael. The evidence painted a stark picture of the final confrontation, leaving no doubt about the nature of the violence that had occurred. The investigation also uncovered a shocking twist. The embezzlement accusations that had fueled much of the conflict were based on a misunderstanding. Andrew had indeed been transferring funds, but not for personal gain. He had been saving money to offer Michael a buyout, hoping to resolve their differences and secure a future for the company. The revelation that Andrew had intended to end the feud peacefully was a bitter irony, highlighting the tragedy of their situation. The impact of the brothers' deaths was profound. Daniel's construction, once a symbol of family success and achievement, was left in disarray. The company faced significant challenges in the wake of the tragedy, with its leadership in turmoil and its reputation tarnished. The legal and financial ramifications of the feud added to the difficulties, as the company struggled to recover from the damage inflicted by the brothers' conflict. The Daniels family was left to grapple with the aftermath of the tragedy. Ellen Daniels, devastated by the loss of her sons, withdrew from public life. The emotional toll of the situation was immense, and she struggled to come to terms with the reality of what had transpired. The family's close friends and supporters rallied around her, but the sense of loss and betrayal was palpable. In the end, the story of Michael and Andrew Daniels served as a stark reminder of the destructive power of unchecked ambition and unresolved conflict. Their once promising future had been overshadowed by a tragic and senseless end, a final act that left a legacy of sorrow and regret. The brothers' rivalry, which had started as a difference of opinion, had spiraled into a tragic confrontation that claimed both their lives. The legacy of Daniel's construction, and of the brothers themselves, was forever altered by the events of that fateful night. The company, now struggling to find its footing, faced an uncertain future. The personal and professional bonds that had once defined the Daniels family were shattered, leaving behind a somber reminder of how easily ambition and discord can unravel even the strongest of ties.